Yeah, like a 5-year-old is not independently deciding whether to attend school. Behind absence, there might be illness, transportation, housing instability, family stress, or a school where the family does not yet feel connected. Um, and today we're asking whether attendance is one of the first places AI can actually produce a real administrative win, not by deciding which students deserve help, not by writing automated threats, but by helping schools notice sooner, identify what they still need to ask, communicate more clearly, and coordinate a human response. By the end of the episode, we will build out a small attendance workflow from synthetic data, examine what the research says uh, can improve attendance, and name a point where AI should probably stop. Chronic absenteeism is generally defined as missing 10% of enrolled days for any reason, not really, not like 10 days. So that's going to be out of a 180-day school year, that would be 18 days, not 10. Um, Dr. Tharp, when attendance data came in during your superintendent years, what happened next? Who saw it? Who owned the follow up? And where did the process usually break down?
Yeah, good to be here, Trevor, and great questions. I would start that I think there is a misconception out there that school attendance or lack of attendance is a teenage problem. And believe it or not, it starts as early as kindergarten and first grade. And you mentioned, 5-year-olds, they're not independent. They can't get themselves to school. And so many early grade students rely on the adults in their lives, their parents, guardians, to get them to school. And there are some students come from backgrounds where the adults in their lives do not get them to school regularly. And that's where the attendance problem begins. Yeah, and you look at the American School Counseling Association says 250 to 1, meaning for every 250 kids, you should have a school counselor. And while that's a noble goal, most school districts are state funded, and maybe it's 400 to 1 is a good goal. So what's happening is there are just not enough people, adult capacity at the school to interface with the homes with the number of students who are absent. I've got a school here where I'm at where 50% of the 400 students are deemed chronically absent. That's 200 students. And they have a principal, a guidance counselor, and an assistant principal. So if they just tackled attendance, they do not have the capacity first to get to every kid and every family and have the ongoing conversations. But then they wouldn't be able to do the rest of the job, which is to run a school. So it's a big problem. And I think there are some AI tools that could possibly help.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I like to think that there could be some tools here, but I actually want to go focus right now on some specific cases that maybe look simple in the data, but are actually complicated once someone reaches out to the family. Do you know of have you had any experiences with anything like that? And you don't
Yes,
have to
I
say
guess.
any names, just
I guess,
yeah.
unfortunately, yes, Trevor. And I'm thinking of a first grade student we had who showed up to school three days late, as school began. Then by the second week, they missed another couple days. The principal, school's usually like when you're absent from school, you get a phone call home. When you're absent for 3 days, you get a personal phone call or at least a letter, and then 5 days, another letter, 10 days, by 10 days, the principal is going to want to be meeting with you. And so this student, 3 days here, 2 days there, and by the third or fourth week had missed over 10 days. The mother came in for a meeting one time and said she felt disrespected by the school secretary. So she left with her student and went to the district office to complain. Got it sorted out, calmed down, brought the principal over to help with that. And then, the mother then proceeded to say, well, we've moved in with my sister. We only have one car. Some of the days we miss is because lack of transportation. And then my son's got to go get a dental procedure. And so he'll miss a couple more days. And so finally, they're after probably about 15 days in the first 6 weeks of school, it did settle down, and the student did have better attendance, but there was sporadic issues, and I would say all told 25 to 30 school days were missed by a first grader who's in that emerging age and grade of learning, the beginnings of reading. And so that's just one example of 200 other kids in that same school, 199 other kids in that same school who are chronically absent, and there's a whole host of reasons.
And what would you say? What would you say are maybe some of the reasons, and what would you say that maybe you learned from this case that the dashboard couldn't really tell you?
Yeah. So I think the several meetings with the parent and getting an understanding of the home situation and the background in the community, helps to give a better lens to the school and to kind of be sensitive to some of the issues that the family's experiencing. And then, helping hands can be given, maybe a little better. But I think that at the end of the day, there are just so many barriers in place for so many families that, come from disadvantaged neighborhoods or homes that it can seem insurmountable to the adults, and getting the student to school is sometimes very secondary to meeting basic needs. And so the school really struggles with with the manpower we have, how do we most appropriately address chronic absenteeism, because if students aren't in school, they're not going to learn how to read, write, do math, and become well educated.
So yeah, that I can imagine that missing 25 days was it kindergarten or first grade?
Yeah, right. Both is happening.
Wow. That would have a lasting negative impact on that child's development and performance, unless mitigated with further interventions, right? So in the early grades, the child often has very little control, really, over whether they arrive, right?
Right.
And you mentioned meeting basic needs was a huge issue for the family involved, and probably also for several other families. It's probably not a limited problem. So, in your opinion, how should that change the school's posture?
Well, I think relationships are vital in that situation, more so probably even when you're working with students and families who I don't know, I guess, so to speak, have it, got it, they're fine, they're doing well, their basic needs are met, they're living middle class, upper middle class experience, and are able to, be successful in the eyes of, the society and community, and the kids come to school every day. So that's, so I guess a little extra support is needed for disadvantaged students. But you gotta spend time on building those relationships with those students and those families to understand the background and the issues, to try and give services and support that can mitigate some of those problems. And with relationships comes really solid communication. And when you're able to really solidly communicate, then those barriers can start to go down, and the home and school relationships are stronger, and the kids benefit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as to how that can help. So the Department of Education notes that children who are chronically absent across multiple years, from preschool through second grade, kind of like the situation we were just discussing, are a lot less likely to read on grade level by third grade. And so attendance is an early learning issue, not only a high school disengagement issue, as you've mentioned earlier. And I think some of the examples you've mentioned have definitely highlighted that. To get into some statistics, three numbers actually frame the problem. The first one is 10%. That's the chronic absence threshold that we kind of mentioned earlier. So 18 days out of 180-day year. Second one is actually 28%. The latest federal administrative data highlighted by the Department of Education put national chronic absence at about 28% in 2022 to 2023, roughly down from 31% the year before, but still far above pre-pandemic level. 22%, or about 10.8 million, is the RAND survey's estimate for 2024 to 2025. The estimate is partially based on district leaders' recollections and uses a different method from the federal data, so it shouldn't be necessarily treated as a clean year-to-year comparison, but it still points to a problem that remains well above the pre-pandemic norm. A leverage point here isn't really that administrators haven't really heard that attendance matters. The issue is the gap, right, between a warning and appropriate response. And at that scale, I think you probably agree, human attention is becoming a scarce resource, right?
Right.
Yeah. So does that really match the capacity problem that you saw?
Absolutely. There's just, schools do not have the capacity to appropriately build those relationships and additional supports for those students and families who are struggling to come to school regularly.
So what generally happens when that barrier exceeds the school's authority or resources?
Trevor, you'll have students missing 50, 60, 70, 80 days of school. In some instances, schools do involve the courts. And as you can, because every state has compulsory attendance, and usually at least till the age of 16, some even to 18. And as you can imagine, going to court, you have to take time to, you have to show evidence that you have tried to work with the family to get the student to school. So you have a lot of paperwork. You have to file the proper papers with the court. Then there's going to be a court date. Then someone has to go to court. If the parent and family doesn't show up, then they'll reschedule the court. So there's a lot of time, and that's just one family, for one kid, or if they have a sibling too. So I hear this a lot. Well, if they're not shameful on the family if they're not bringing their student to school, then you should take them to court because they're violating the law. So, sure. But even with court orders, the kids, are still not coming to school necessarily. So,
So the strongest evidence is not really that a chatbot solves absenteeism. It's really that timely, specific communication and direct human outreach can improve attendance. And of course, technology can help schools to deliver that more consistently. According to the Institute of Education Sciences, an evaluation that they had followed families of roughly 26,000 K-5 students across 108 elementary schools, all for adaptive texting strategies reduced chronic absence, and the estimated reductions range from 2 to 7 percentage points, with larger effects among students who already had a history of high absence. The detail that matters most for our thesis is that among our higher risk students, receiving intensified outreach direct texts from school staffs outperformed a more automated intensified approach. So the study didn't find reading or math achievement gains during that same year, which is not exactly a great thing. But it does at least show that there is some evidence that this particular piece can be mitigated, addressed somewhat through this sort of automated setup. So apparently, automation can support broad, lower intensity communication. So before things really get bad or complicated, right? But then as the case gets more risky and complex, evidence points back towards a named human being, someone who works at the school, right? Does that line up with your experience? That the more complicated the barrier, the more important the relationship becomes?
yes, that is definitely my experience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So would you say that relationship building, community schools, or MTSS, any of those things are relevant on this topic?
Yeah, school districts have lots of wraparound services. We offer attendance support, guidance, school counselors, social workers going out to the homes, a multi-tiered systems of support, which is what it's called now, and that's also connecting any local social services in a community to kind of help families who are struggling with maybe clothing, housing, groceries, those sorts of things. So, when you can connect the dots for families, then you can help them to stabilize and then get the students to school more regularly.
Yeah, and this makes a lot of sense to what kind of I think the way that AI can address things would be. So, in my sense, is that AI can maybe help identify certain problems. So if things get complicated, and we have records of kind of what the reasons were for absenteeism, we can kind of have almost a red alert system, right? But the other side, of course, is for the lower risk situations, in order to basically give back time for the resources that would probably be more important to direct it towards the higher risk situations. We can obviously automation can help there, but at the same time, a message can't really repair a bus route or stabilize housing or treat an asthma flare up, right? Or ensure that that there's food in the refrigerator or anything like that, right? So that distinction matters before we show the demo, right?
Right. Yes.
So I'm going to get into the demo now because this is something I made with just Codex, which I can show at another point how to do this. It's not actually even that hard. You really just have to ask the system to make the thing. But basically, what I'm going to show right now took probably 15 minutes. And you should know that all the data and stuff that's involved here is completely fake. None of I'm going to say this. Okay, boom. All right. So yeah, you can see it says turn the warning lights into human follow-up. And so basically, yeah, this system right here is really for sort of showing the warning signs, and also kind of scripting some of the outreach. So I'm just going to go here. Yeah. Um, and so, yeah, like I said, everything here is fictional. And the first design choice is architectural. We're not really calculating the attendance rate right here. Role-based layer divides absences by days enrolled and applies a district threshold, which is deterministic and, of course, easy to audit, right? So we have 5 students in the demonstration queue, and you can see one of them is already above 10%, right, of the thresholds, of the and 2 are approaching that threshold or show sharp recent changes, right? Every case still requires human follow-up. Nothing is really auto-sent here. And then so for this one, the system shows the 10, let's see, we see, yeah, 10 days so far above, out of 90 days enrolled, which is really bad. Right. 5 just in the last 10 school days. So that, and there's also a Monday cluster that this system programmed in. So the next step is really a question. The AI code pilot involved here identifies missing information and suggests one supportive human follow-up. So if we go to the prepare outreach, you can actually see here we have a prepared follow-up, right? And we have the text, call notes. Basically, if you're going to call, then basically you just want to be able to know what needs to be asked, right? See if there are other problems, if there's anything deeper, right? And of course, there's also an email version of this as well. Obviously, in production, real student information belongs only in a district-approved environment with access controls, clear retention policy, all of those things. The Department of Education advises staff to confirm that tools collecting student information are approved and to consult district IT. So if you look as well, we also have a few other cases in here. So we have, let's see, which one is this? Yes, S219 has 8 absences, so, and 9 tardies. So basically an approved note mentions a bus route change. The Copilot doesn't actually, the Copilot doesn't say, so you can see the bus route change right here, right? And so the idea is, okay, verify the current route, right? Pickup time, transportation eligibility. So this is just one thing to check into. It might not necessarily be the confirmed explanation, but just based on the tardies and that sort of thing, this is a potential cause. So it's kind of like a worth investigating type of moment. And then there's also this assign the work part. So of course, the idea is that the individuals, the staff who should basically remain accountable can be notified, right, through this sort of system as well, that, they're supposed to, send out that specific sequence of like the call, the text, the email, right, for each of the students that they're assigned that to, right? So this is just an example system, as I mentioned. Obviously, there was a system that Pasco County actually built which had a robust data dashboard, an early warning system that flagged 7 students, 7 absences, and again at 18, but attendance wasn't actually affected at either threshold. There was a benefit for one group of more socially economically advantaged students, at the higher threshold, but it didn't really appear as much for the disadvantaged peers. So focus groups identified barriers such as housing instability, family changes, and responsibility for younger siblings. And this is going back to kind of what we were saying earlier. An alert like what this system can actually help out with can identify the smoke, but it's not going to put out the flame. So it's not going to be able to provide housing, repair the bus route, treat anxiety, or look after a younger sibling. Those are broader systemic things that need to be addressed separately. The lesson isn't that data tools like this are useless. It's that identification and intervention are two different things. School needs to actually build the response system, not just the warning system. So that means, beyond just sort of having a thing like this, this is really something we're probably going to circle back to a lot. It's about implementation beyond just having the tool. So you're going to actually need to do more, right? And so I actually want to ask you, Dr. Tharp, how often do districts buy the identification layer before they actually build the response capacity?
Well, the response capacity never changes. There could be some concentrated efforts on attendance, but the response capacity is what it is. But if the tool could streamline some of those upfront processes, and take care of that for the humans, then I think that then you would the staff could dedicate more time to the relationship building and communication piece, which is what's going to ultimately be the only way to improve the situation.
Yeah, so that kind of circles back to kind of what I was saying earlier, which is this can maybe help free up some of the capacity, but at the end of the day, it's not a replacement for that actual human intervention aspect, right?
No, not a replacement, but definitely I see it as a valuable tool to help reduce those chronic absenteeism numbers
Yeah,
significantly.
is that predictive accuracy is an intermediate metric. So catching more true positives matters only when the school actually has an effective and fair response for the students it identifies. If a district wanted to test this responsibly, would you say district wide, or would you just say one grade band, one attendance team, one narrow workflow? What do you think is probably better?
Yeah, yes, that, or maybe one school, because it's kind of a whole. Well, if you're putting it in the hands of a principal and you say, "Oh, only use it for first grade," that principal is going to say, "Gosh,
What are you doing?
but this would really help kindergarten too." Or, "Well, this year it's the second grade that really needs it, but I'm piloting it in first grade. I didn't know that second grade was going to blow up in terms, in terms of attendance." So I would say, pick a school and pilot it. Pick a strong principal and their team and try it out.
Yeah, and so I think that tracks a lot. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, it's like basically the first step is just mapping the process, see when the attendance data arrives, who sees it, who contacts the family, right? Then it's building this role-based layer, right? Absence rate, recent change, thresholds, right? Then you have the AI layer, summarize approved notes, generate questions, draft a message, right? Convert decisions to assigned tasks, and then you evaluate. You want to measure that, right? You want to measure human review within 48 hours, families reached, bad records corrected, that sort of thing, right? And I want to just ask you, what three metrics would matter most to a superintendent? Which result would make you stop the pilot, actually?
The metric that I would as a superintendent stop the pilot if there's no I would do it with just anecdotal evidence from the principal saying that it's too laborious. We're spending too much time on the product, and it's hampering our relationship building and our personal communication. So if the tool gets in the way of the real work, then we would stop it.
Yeah, and that's an extremely important caveat, because the whole point of the tool is actually to free up time for the real work. Because as we can
Right.
see, as we can tell, the bigger issue is always the real work side of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, like AI will not solve chronic absenteeism, right? Not on its own. The AI that exists today can reduce the delay and the delay between a warning, right, and a useful human response. Um, what would you say, Dr. Tharp, just kind of to close this out?
Well, Trevor, I think this is a really worthy endeavor. It is a attendance not getting kids to school, especially in the early grades, is a problem. And if they're and school budgets are tight and staffing is even tighter, so a product that simplifies and triages your attendance issues and helps the school staff to understand and to help them target where they need to be putting their energy. I think that you could really see a significant reduction in the chronic absentee problems.
Yeah, AI should not decide which students deserve help. It should help adults notice sooner, communicate better, and act faster. This has been the District Signal: AI, Evidence, and Strategy for School Leaders. Next time, where AI saves teachers time and where it quietly creates new work.